And action.
The Star Wars reported. Sorry?
The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Got it. Or you are watching.
Yeah. Action. The Star Wars Reporter podcast.
Right. The Star Wars Reporter podcast you are watching. Where's my $50?
And welcome to episode 105 of the Star Wars Reporter podcast. It's been a 100 million days, it seems, since our last podcast, but we're happy to be back. There's so much to talk about: Mandalorian, Bad Batch, and welcome. So I just introduced you to the gang again. Start with Trooper Todd. He's the one on the right.
That's me. I'm Trooper Todd.
This is on the right.
This is my bodyguard.
The
Keeps you guys in
entourage.
line. Yes, my entourage keeps you guys in line.
I'm not afraid of him because it's hard to see in those helmets. And of course, we have Darth Slobo.
Back again.
He's actually tuning in live from us from the prison he's at right now.
Yeah, we got slow Wi-Fi over here, so
Yeah,
I'm still on season 1 of The Mandalorian.
that's awesome. And of course, me, Harry Steve, as my wife calls me. So welcome. I'm trying to look more like this guy here. I need the surfboard now.
You need a surfboard. Yeah, you're almost there. You're almost there.
Yeah. So excellent. It's good to be back. We're not doing this live today because, we're old. Oh, sorry. Todd and I are old. Adam's not old. So it just works out better this way. Be sure, I'll let you know too. Be sure to follow us on our social media, which is, of course, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And again, hit that like button. Follow us. And
smash that like button, Steve.
Smash
that like button.
That's all the kids say. Smash it.
I know, kids, man. And of course, check us out, StarWarsReporter.com, for all the latest news. And it'll make us happy. So yeah, guys, it's been a while. We've been watching. We got about halfway through The Mandalorian before we got a chance to actually talk about it. There was the season finale of the Bad Batch. Wow. Todd and I were talking before we went live, and I'm like, remember when I said there was no consequences in the Bad Batch?
Spoilers. Just say spoilers. Maybe some spoilers. If you haven't caught up to it yet, you just so you know, there might be some spoilers.
I think the last like 3 or 4 episodes, they really just changed the dynamic of consequence. Even this season, actually. Like the first season, they were almost invincible. But I mean, we'll talk about that when we get
there.
Right. So, I mean, the big thing, I guess, at least for me, is The Mandalorian. We have like 4 episodes to go through, four or 5 here, and let's just get into it. So, I mean, I thought we just go over kind of a lot of our favorite parts and points of the series so far. And, to be quite honest, this last episode or chapter 21 was probably the most action-packed. So we can get into that. But I'm finding that this season is more, I think, more setting up the Star Wars Favreau-Filoni universe to lead into other things and then into the sequels, even though Favreau said that's not their plan. It is to lead into the sequels, but and I find it interesting where I'm seeing a lot of moaning about some of the episodes, like the Dr. Pershing episode, where it was just like all this story and drama, and people are complaining. I'm like, these are the same people that thought that Andor was the greatest thing ever, and that whole thing was just story and no action. And I thought, isn't it what people were wanting? Like some people were complaining that The Mandalorian was too pew pew, and the weirdos were thinking it was too much like the original trilogy, which is funny. And here we have a lot of in my opinion, like sometimes I could agree saying, oh, this kind of feels slow, but it seems more story and setup getting to where they're going to get into a big.
Well, so far, I have to say that the episode you're referring to, Steve, right now, where with the side, it was an extra long show. It seemed like it was like 45 or 50 minutes long,
Yeah.
right? It was a longer show. It had really two storylines. It had you're following Mando and his quest sort of thing, but also had this big, huge, with a transition or turnover storyline where it was the doctor who we knew and this former agent of Gideon sort of thing, right? Or commander, whatever she was underneath Gideon, right? So, but again, it was one of my favorite episodes of the season. Like to me, it was a big, huge character shift. Okay, who are these people and what they're doing? But I thought the story was so interesting, and it gave me just like been some great episodes of we've seen Palpatine being a great manipulator, right? And this really felt like that, where she was manipulating this doctor who was just just trying to make his way in this new world. I don't know.
Elia Kane is her name. She's G68, I think is her.
She's a master manipulator, is what she is. Like, and that
I agree. Yeah.
Like she was just twisting the dial the whole entire time, from the first time she laid eyes on him, because she knew who he was, and obviously she has an alternative plan. She's infiltrating the New Republic, and I'm pretty sure that's going to lead to no good. It's my guess.
I've actually been a little frustrated more so this season than any other season. Oh my gosh, I'm out of focus again. It's this new webcam. I'm trying to set up my home office. Let's see. Does that do it? No.
Don't be so dynamic then.
There you go. You're back.
There we go. I'm back. I've been frustrated this season more so than any other season, because I feel like, and this goes back to a conversation that we've had 50 times, those loud Star Wars fans on Twitter. I think this is a great season. We've had great elements, and there's just been nothing but complaints on Twitter for every aspect of The Mandalorian. I loved the episode with Dr. Pershing. I thought it was great. I thought she was a master manipulator. It was really cool to see the inner workings of a transition in power and a transition in governance, where you have a rebellion and now they're forced to set up these institutions. They're no longer these underground forces. They actually have to set up governance. And we see how they're actually transitioning those former Imperials to the New Republic. And it's not clean, and it's very messy, and it's very bureaucratic, and it's almost has shades of the Empire in it as well. They're giving people numbers and lettering, and they're taking away their names, much like the Empire did. So I think we're seeing some of that in the backdrop of that Andorian style espionage, where she totally manipulated. And that honestly reminded me of the John DeLorean documentary, where they sort of set him up and they just keep egging him on. Like they're egging Dr. Pershing on, well, you should continue. If this is your work and you need to serve the New Republic, do it. And finally he gets baited into the trap, and
then oops.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that was her plan. Like, I didn't trust her from the get-go. I kind of thought that she was trying to help him because they wanted the technology. I didn't think she was setting him up to get caught, fry his brain, and make it so that he couldn't do his technology, because whoever she's working for, Gideon, is...
Gideon? We all seem to have the same cough.
Yeah. So yeah, that was part of the plan, and I did like her performance. And I'll tell you, speaking of anger, when I was posting the one article that I pointed out, I think 5 parts that I really liked, and I had this as a picture. You know how much anger that got, because people hated the glow popsicles. I mean, they're kind of silly, but
I hated the glowing popsicles.
I thought they were silly. They were silly, but I am obsessed.
So bad.
Distraction.
Same
It's
with the
a
little
huge
snack. Same with that little biscuit.
The biscuits
I'm obsessed
fantastic.
I'm
I thought that was
obsessed
a
with.
cool find, Steve. I will say that was really cool that you found that.
Yeah.
Or that someone commented the link. That
Someone
was cool.
commented and said it's this, and I've been looking it up, the kits, because I'm like, I'm gonna buy these and I'm gonna make the packages. But I think StarWars.com, they actually they have someone who does recipes, and she showed how to make them, sort of. So it's a lot probably nicer than ordering them from a Chinese military outlet or something. So
You'd be flagged definitely by the Canadian government. You'd be flagged.
I love the biscuits, but for me, like that whole scene with the glowing popsicles reminded me too much of episode 1, the Phantom Menace, where things were overdone. Like they didn't have to make it glowing; it could have been anything. I just found it a big distraction, and plus, you're talking about. Me and Steve, before we started this taping, we're talking about budget, saving money, because Disney's on this saving money thing. They could have saved themselves thousands of dollars not having those stupid glowing popsicles all done in post-production. I couldn't tell you how expensive that scene was.
But
do you know what bothered me about it?
Galaxy's Edge for a lot of money.
They're definitely going to be selling them. Yes, but the thing that really bothered me about that scene was how they were eating it.
Yes.
It was not natural. It wasn't like a popsicle in any way. It was plastic, and they were just like, or it was just weird. Like,
it was weird.
There was no way to.
I will agree with you that I think the popsicles look dynamite, but they did suck at acting how to eat a popsicle.
It's like, what do you do? So this glowing plastic thing that might be hot, you want me to do what?
I guarantee it's not hot. It's probably an LED light. But even like when they brought it to their face, it glowed on their face. Like that was all added in post production. I can guarantee you it added. They exaggerated the glowing too. I guarantee it was all CG, and that would be like just a lot of time, a lot of money, and it just seems like such a waste of resources.
It's funny, the actor that plays Elia. She had made a comment on Twitter about, her character. It was from this episode, just past, and I made a comment about how devious she was. I'm like, Elia is devious. I look forward to her being a villain in the canon. And someone else called her villain. She's like, villain? ? So, because the Imperials don't feel that they're
villains.
They don't think they're the villains.
I see.
But she doesn't say that. But someone was confused that called her a villain. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you like an anti-hero? It's like, no, that's not the point. No. But she did think it was funny that I called her, or, Star Wars Reporter made a mention of her being devious, because she is. I thought her acting was, she reminded me of the part in, this is weird, from The Lost Boys, where they get David or Michael down in the cave the first time and they're screwing around with him. And she kind of was reminding me of Kiefer Sutherland when he gets really serious and how he was moving and stuff. It was just really weird how, in this episode, when she kind of, I'm jumping around, where she kind of goes into the office to kind of give her input or what she thought with Teva in the office when he's talking to the colonel. She does this really good, innocent, but meanwhile she's full of it, right? You know that she's, I say, devious, and their little exchange about, if they only signed on and did what they were told, they wouldn't be in this position. And Teva's like, well, that's very Imperial of you or something. And
yeah.
So
I thought that was brilliant where
dialogue. She fakes that
scene.
Yeah,
that whole scene was chef's kiss. I think Teva knows how cunning she is based on that exchange. And I think she kind of maybe even revealed too much to him by strategically using that language of like, only if they signed on. And what else did she say? We were liberated or
liberated.
Something
yes.
like that.
Liberated. When you were captured. No, I was liberated. Right. It's like,
that's right. And it's like that little back and forth where they know what's going on.
Well, when she first came in the office and starts going on like that, did you notice her? Teva looks down and notices her. What's that program called? The
light goes on.
I forget what the program's called where they're
reintroduction program or whatever it's called.
Reintroduction program. I forget what it is. Had it written down, but he notices that on her, right? And I think that's, I mean, it's there purposely, right, to let everyone know that they're recovering Imperials. And I think that was obviously, because if you go into the sequels, it was the biggest mistake the Republic could have did, right? Trying to be all noble, like we're gonna integrate everyone back in, and they seem to do that way too quick. People like Elia were in positions where she could listen in, right? That was a question. Someone's like, how did she know that he was doing that? Well, the office door was open and she was listening in. They weren't whispering.
It just seems like the New Republic's far too trusting of these people who are trying to kill him not too long ago. You know, it's just like, yeah.
And they're bogged down with administration. Like if you looked at Andor, Cyril, you know, he's in his office doing whatever, right? And then you look at the Republic, it's just like bureaucrats and people like, oh, you know, we'll get around to it, you know, like they won, what do they have to worry about? And the decadence of Coruscant is back, and you know, all this kind of stuff where they couldn't just send a few ships to deal with Grief's problem because they were independent and stuff like that. It's just like they're not trying to win hearts and minds at all.
No, exactly, right. But it's a flawed system. The fact that, like, you know, they don't even know how to, like, they have all these access to resources now, but their whole thing is like, let's destroy it, right? They know what they have, and yet they still, you know, we got to move on, just destroy it. That, which is, you know, the problem with the Doctor too, right? Like, you know, he didn't want his work destroyed, which is a really interesting angle. The fact that they have access to all this powerful stuff, but again, they're getting rid of it.
They're like, oh, it's the Empire stuff, so we just have to get rid of it. Like, period. Just because it's Empire. It's like, well, some technology is good, right? Like, and he was trying to use it to grow organs and other stuff. Although I feel bad for Dr. Pershing, I think that I was unsure of his motivations. Was it more like, you know, like, I think he might be even torn, like when he was working for the Empire and working for Gideon, because it was like the means or the ends justifies the means or whatever. He still had that in him. It's like, I'll do what I got to do because it's good in the end. You know, whether that's taking DNA from Grogu or doing whatever that we didn't see happen, that working for the Empire. You know,
I do think he's motivated very much. Yeah, I think he's motivated more so by his own work over than loyalty to any side. Like, him advancing his own research is the core motivation. And he could do that with the Empire because they were very loose on their ethics towards cloning. But it turns out the New Republic does not want to have anything to do with cloning, so he can't do his work, and so he needs to subvert that system in order to try to continue really his life's work. And we sort of got a little hint of that in his opening speech of like, he could have saved his mom with his work, and that's his core motivation, no matter what side is in power.
Right.
So this is very interesting. We're 18 minutes into our discussion about the Mandalorian, and we're talking about the characters who are not the Mandalorian. See, this is how, or people are, that you were saying, hating this episode. We have so much to talk about, and they've only had 30 minutes of screen time out of 5 episodes, right?
They gave us so much rich background in these episodes, like so much rich backstory. And I'm a fan of that. I love it. Like seeing the everyday of Coruscant, seeing, like you said, Steve, like those fat cats of the Empire are now the same, you know, fat cats of the New Republic, who are attending the opera and Dr. Pershing's talk, and they're, you know, they're still very complacent.
These people here are so terrible, these people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Just to see that inner working, and like the New Republic, they're swamped with all this work. What was it? Colonel Tuttle was like, just whatever. We don't have the resources. I'm bogged down in the work. Like, just to see all of that, I think is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite parts in these first 5 episodes, I don't remember what episode it was because there's been lots happening, was when you have the Admiral Akbar, the character, and he goes, "It's a trap." Like, you know, I thought it was so good when they did a little callback there to Return of the Jedi. Do you have a picture of that, Steve, at all?
I
'cause he was
didn't. It
actually
was when
oh,
Pershing was being strapped down to have
that's
his
right.
mind altered, and
Yeah.
And he said,
he's like,
"Doctor, it's a trap."
she set me up, she trapped me, or
Yeah,
something like that.
he said it. I think it's. I think he said it's a trap, or
He
I was.
did.
Yeah,
Trap, yeah,
it was a direct callback to Return of the Jedi
which I
because
think
it
was
even
funny.
had one of the fish people behind him, right? So it was like I couldn't stop. Not that it was funny, 'cause it was really good, but it's like what a callback and well timed use of a line.
You know what's
One of my
funny? A
highlights.
lot of people on Twitter hated that too. Like a lot of people hated that. They're like, "Oh no, that's like too blatant of a callback. You can't." And I was like, "That was awesome.
Well,
Like, how did you have the direct quote, and you
wait,
have you like you said the Mon Cala or their whatever their
Mon
species is like
Calamari.
right there."
When did
Yeah,
people stop hating, or start hating cookies or Easter eggs or whatever? You know what I
well,
mean? Like,
you have to remember this is Twitter. It's a toxic cesspool, right? There's the only
it
people
is
on
very
Twitter
much.
are there to hate and to spread hate. It's all it does, right? It's all it does really, really well.
I
Is
just like with Andor, whenever they would go to uh, what's his name shop there, um, whenever they go in
yes,
the shop, everyone's like, I
Oh yeah,
pause,
yeah,
I'd be like, hey, what does he have in the shop? Oh,
yeah,
that's a helmet from here, and that's a Wookiee this,
yeah.
and that was the fun part, right? Or it's like, oh,
Totally. Oh, there's somebody saw Sith holocron in the background. Oh my goodness!
yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly.
that was the best
you
part.
know, R5 rolls out in, a
Yeah,
couple of episodes. You're like, that's R5. You could tell it's R5, and we know that, not because they named it, but because he still has the burn marks from
You
the
see how
bad motivator.
exactly, but
You know,
he's obviously
come
got
on.
his motivator repaired, obviously. But
I say it's these new Star Wars fans that have come here for Baby Yoda, and I don't even use that anymore. I use Grogu. My wife uses Baby Yoda, but I mean, I say
there's
Grogu.
I think it's just trollers just looking for something to stir something up because they're bored. That's what I think it is. Like people, yeah, I think when you're on top, when you're doing well, everybody wants to knock it down, right?
yeah,
It's
totally.
Yep.
like people love to hate Marvel now, right?
That's
Like
true.
people
That's
love
true.
to hate Star Wars now. Like if you're doing well, they'll knock you down, and that's what the haters do, right? It's like
Mhm. I just find it's the same kind of, like I was saying before we went live, like, people were saying that loved Andor, like really, really loved it. They're like, who cares if it didn't have pew pew in the space battles? It was story, it was this, it was that. Who cares about Jedi? And then they come to, the episode with Dr. Pershing, or, any other story driven episode. They're like, this is stupid. Where's all the pew pew? You're like, I thought you liked this. And it's one episode.
like I said,
One episode.
Oh yeah.
it's it's want what you don't have, and when you have it, you want the other thing. It's just again,
That's 100% what it is. Like even coming into this season, everyone's like, "Oh, I feel like Mandalorian's gotten too big and too connected with other major characters. Like,
see,
why can't he just be a bounty hunter?" And then, the first episode of the season comes out, and there's the gunfight in the street, which was phenomenal, by the way. Like to see that with the pirates and to see
Yes.
him and Grief Karga
It
pop
was
off again.
this scene here where
Amazing.
Grief pulls it's such a Western, right? He pulls to show his gun too. Yeah, you're right.
And then complainers from the other way, oh, that's not connected. Like, that's too much. Like, give me a break. It's just, for me, it's been fantastic since the first episode. Like, when they roll in to see the city now, like, fully under High Magistrate Grief Karga, he's rebuilt this. And then to have, Mando come in with a quick gunfight in the street, and to see the Anzellans again, Babu Frick, amazing. Like there's been so many really cool aspects of the Mandalorian. I disagree with all the haters.
And I had the Anzellans. I thought when I first saw them, when they were going to when Grief brings Mando to to get the droid fixed, the IG-11 fixed, I thought, oh, okay, what are they gonna do, right? Like, and it was hilarious, the scene where he's sitting in the shop and they're all talking to each other. My wife's watching it, and again, she's not a Star Wars nerd. She appreciates it and she watches it with me because it's like the one thing she does watch with me. And she was just laughing, killing herself over it, right? But I understand where some people will say, oh, they just threw some cute thing in there, right? But my wife also appreciates the other stuff, and even like the original trilogy. So it was just very funny, especially when Grogu grabs one of them
Oh.
and he's like, "Bad baby," and
Yeah, that
no
was so
squeezing, no
funny.
squeezing. The way they were talking to each other, it reminded me of Men in Black. Those little aliens, how they were
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
joking,
yeah,
the
yeah,
little
yeah.
squid things, whatever.
Yeah, the little yeah
I thought
shrimp.
it
I think they
was
call them shrimp, didn't they? I think.
shrimp, something like that. I just
Yeah.
thought it was such a funny scene. And again, here's the where the fans can't decide what they want. So when there's something very adult, people say, "Oh, it's too adult," and they say, "Oh, but we want more story." And those same people will complain, or they'll say, you have the same people saying, "Oh, what are you complaining about? Star Wars was made for 12-year-olds. It's all fantasy, anyways." But then, you know what I mean? Like they can't decide if it's for 12-year-olds or if it's for adults, right? So you have the
Yeah.
complaining about too cute, not enough pew pew, or too much pew pew, not enough story. And you're like, what do you
Uh,
want? Right? And I
what do you
thought Star
want?
Wars was
What do you
for
want?
everyone of all ages, right? When it first came out,
Yeah.
I mean, Todd and I were very
5.
young seeing it. Yeah, 5 in the theater, and there was adults going to see it. You see the lineups, and the people are going to go see it. So it's so
It is what you
strange,
make of it. It is what you make of it. It's for everyone. But
right?
I will say that whole sequence of them trying to resurrect, was it IG-11, was
IG-11.
hilarious. From the Anzellans even to like bringing them back to Grief's office, and they plug him in, and he goes full bounty hunter mode, and they're like, kill it, kill it, kill it. That was hilarious.
And I had, oh, there it is. Yeah. So this scene, I just thought with the Ancellans, I thought I had the one where he's sitting on the side there. Anyways,
The only thought I had about the first couple episodes, and I think they've taken it in a very different direction since then. I'm huge fan of Bo-Katan. Um, Huge fan of Bo-Katan. I love her development. I will say early on, to me, it felt like Bo-Katan's role in partnering with Din was very much what Gina Carano's role was going to be for this season, in helping him out going back to Mandalore.
right.
And they just, same with IG-11, but they switched that role to Bo-Katan. And I'm digging it. I just, early on, I felt like, I feel like that would have been what Gina Carano would have done, or her character, I forget, Cara Dune, what Cara
Cara
Dune would
Dune.
have done with Din.
Right.
But I mean, they've definitely gone full on into the lore of Mandalore, which I'm a fan of.
It makes more sense, quite frankly, the direction they're going in now. The Cara Dune would have been okay, but like she's never. I'll honestly say she's never been my favorite character. I know you guys are much more bigger fans of her than I was, but I saw something actually right before I jumped on with Steve today. Like somebody was saying how the Mandalorian season 3 sucks because it doesn't have Cara Dune in it. Well, majority of people like they're not missing her at all, right? You know what I'm saying? Like really, like her character is her character, but with the storyline that's going on, it makes more sense having Bo-Katan than her because, like, quite frankly, look what happened, right? Like, it's uh, with the whole entire thing with him going to bathe. I was surprised. I thought the whole season would be him trying to reclaim his Mandalorian hood,
Yeah.
but it was done in one episode. If I have one complaint so far with the season, that everything seems to be happening really fast. That's my
And
one
easy.
complaint.
And easy. Right.
Fast and easy. Yeah, me and Steve were talking a little bit before. I just think everything's like, even for example, the latest episode, the pirate episode, like just seemed really easy. I just
I
think it
thought
would.
a Pirate King Gorian would have stuck around a little more. I do agree with you there. It was like, now he's dead. There was a lot of complaints about that one.
I hope
I think
I hope he
Katie
got out.
Sackhoff's actually killing it. Katie Sackhoff. One shout out to Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan. She's absolutely killing it this season.
Yes.
Every scene she's
This picture
in,
here.
she is the leader of Mandalore. No hate on Din Djarin, but I'm Team Bo-Katan.
Yeah, again, Todd and I were talking too much before we went live, but I didn't think that Din was going to become, Mandalore. Like he wasn't going to become leader, but I had
Honestly,
hoped that they were going to have a fight for it, right? Because I was saying to Todd, like Din is so ideologically driven by his faith for Mandalore, right? Or for the Mandalorian way, right? Like he as best he can. Like when the armorer said, "Did you take your helmet off?" He could have said no, but he's so honest, right? Because that's the way it's supposed to be. So I wish he would have fought more for it, right? He has the dark saber, she doesn't, and that there would be more of a weird alliance between the two of them because she wants to get that power back and become ruler of Mandalore. And I thought when she discovered the mythosaur in the living waters and didn't tell him, I thought, okay, well, she can't get the dark saber back, so maybe she's going to try to tame this thing and use that to say, look, just like Mandalore the Great did, I tamed this mythosaur, and that was going to be her new stick. Now it just seems with this latest episode, the armor's like, yeah, you're really good, and you've been on both sides and you should be the one to reunite. And it was just like, okay, I'll go do it. And it seemed really easy. And I was hoping that they would butt heads more, where Mandalore would feel obligated to not just give in to her because of the faith. And then I was saying to Todd, and the funny twist would be Grogu coming and taming the mythosaur with his force powers, becoming the second Mandalorian Jedi, and that would be the big twist. While the two of them are butting heads, he just comes up like he did to the Rancor and gets it to be all cute.
Interesting.
We won't live it long enough for Grogu to grow up to
Another
be,
50 years or more.
yeah, exactly, right? So, like, going back to the whole Bo-Katan, like where she saw the mythosaur in the water, and like
Yeah.
Steve was like thought that maybe when we were talking offline, thought maybe she had a hidden motive, like he was saying.
Sneaky.
But like to me, like I love that you're talking about her performance. Like again, the performance that they're doing with the helmets on is amazing because like she came up and you could see that I thought anyway her faith, what she didn't believe in was greatly tested. I compared it to like
Right.
to being an atheist, and you see Jesus Christ walk across the water, scoops up some water, says, "Here, you want some wine?" And then you're like sort of thing, right? So that's kind of again, she has a mask on, but that look she gave at the water was everything she didn't believe in, or she thought was stories or made up or not real, was questioned right there. Everything she believed in or didn't believe in was questioned, and so I thought that was a really neat part. And then the fact that she said that yes, she bathed in the living waters too, therefore she's metal, and she didn't take her helmet off, right? So like it was just kind of neat to see her come back, which I think is setting up, like what you were saying, Steve, sets up the fact that she's lived in both worlds. She quite frankly, looking at it, she is the greatest tool to bring them back together because she has lived both sides of
Right.
the faith.
She
Sort of
has
thing.
more connections for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
Mhm.
lived there, and I agree with you, Todd. In the one episode where Din's going to the living waters and stuff, and she's just kind of like, yeah, this is the myth, yeah. It's like that rich child that grew up in royalty, that
Cocky arrogance.
did the rituals, did that, and was like, ugh, this is so silly. Like modern times, right? Where it's like, why are we doing
Totally.
this tradition? It's so silly.
Yeah.
And then she gets hit in the face by a reality that this is all true. And even then, when Din was so zealot about everything, and you could see her looking like she was almost admiring him for having such faith in this. And then of course she gets smacked, and again, you were saying wearing the helmets, it's like it's so weird how the Mandalorians can be jarring because you don't know what's behind the mask, but yet they're able to get like we can read what they're thinking or feeling sometimes.
Totally.
How does that happen?
They have such good body language. They're great actors. Yeah. I will
Yeah.
say I 100% agree with both you. I think there was definitely that cocky arrogance among Bo-Katan before, especially with Din, especially since he has the dark saber, and she clearly wanted it. And then there's that, arrogance. You haven't even been to Mandalore. What are you talking about? Going to bathe in the living waters? Like, I've done it before. That's how I was initiated when I was a kid.
Right.
Like, I was the princess of Mandalore, or whatever, Duchess's sister, et cetera, and then totally,
Yeah.
she had a full test of faith, on that walk to the living waters and then seeing the mythosaur. And then right after, there definitely seemed like some ulterior motive of not telling Din, probably because he has the dark saber. But now there's a new way to reclaim titlehood of or status within Mandalore, and we may see some future conflict, or maybe like it could go two ways. And I don't mean to deal in absolutes like a Sith, but I'm seeing it as they either wrote this as the middle ground of Mando can keep the dark saber and possibly hand it to Grogu, who will be the next Mandalorian Jedi and inherit it, much like Vizsla did, while still allowing Bo-Katan to be the true ruler of Mandalore by taming the mythosaur. Or we could maybe even see something like the armor getting back in the middle, where Bo-Katan tames the mythosaur and Din still has the dark saber, and now maybe the armor is the one to get in the middle and say duke it out for the title.
Right. Or, you know, when we finally get to see all the tribes reunite to have their discussion, which I think is going to be interesting because, you know, at the end of chapter 21, the episode that just happened on Wednesday, where Teva finds that old shuttle that was transporting Moff Gideon, and he's not there, the crew's dead, and there's Beskar Shard in there, so they're like, Mandalorians got him. So is it the Death Watch? Because they've worked, right, with the Empire. They might have a nice deal with Gideon and stuff. So it'd be interesting. Like, we might see Mandalorian versus Mandalorian. How awesome is that going to be?
Yeah.
Like
another civil war.
Or maybe you know, the Mandalorians might say, yeah, the Death Watch really know what they're talking about, and, you know what I mean? Yeah, like another civil war. So maybe it will eventually become not so easy.
Or it could be a plant by Moff Gideon to pit the New Republic against the Mandalorians.
Exactly.
Oh.
That's the other thing I was thinking too.
That's a really good point too. Yeah, because of course, that makes sense too.
I thought, did anyone else think that when Teva was there in the X-Wing and it's just like quiet, he's there alone, there's this creepy derelict ship that's been attacked, and he's sitting there and he's scanning and he's talking to, by the way, I didn't realize that when he was calling in about the shuttle, that was Filoni.
Oh, is it really?
As
oh,
Topper
really?
Wolf. Yeah, because I would looked up on IMDb again. I'm like, oh, it says Topper Wolf was in this, or is it Trapper Wolf?
Voice.
And I was like, oh, it's Filoni when he was calling it. It's like, oh, it was like Moff Gideon was supposed to be on that, blah, blah, blah. I thought that's
he was
funny,
in the bar at the beginning of that episode too.
Yes, I know. I found that out after. But anyways, I thought for sure that whoever was there again and was going to blow Teva out of the sky, because he was like found the shit, found the evidence. And I was like, oh no, they're not going to kill him. But he survived. And actually, the actress that played Elia tweeted that. She's like, oh my God, I thought you were gonna die. I'm so happy you survived. Because I mean, she wouldn't know the script.
I totally thought we were gonna be in for a jump scare there. I was preparing myself. I was like, I know something's gonna happen. He's either gonna get shot or something's gonna jump in the ship on his screen or something.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. So someone's gonna pop out, or you waiting for setting it up, and I was like, oh, I found a piece of metal in the wall. Okay. But again, think if he died, then he wouldn't be able to report back that it was Beskar in the so it's obviously setting up something like, which two possibilities: civil war or a New Republic against the Mandalorians. So again, where the Mandalorians are on this little system now that's free, but not part of the New Republic, right? So that might be a bone contingent, right? So
and Teva has been blowing up online since the episode went, especially like I was one of the people that have been asking about where he got his jacket from. because if Disney was
So
smart,
cool.
they'll start selling those.
So cool. With
But
the
I thought
patches.
he was very cool. Yes, the patches. I'd like to know what the Rancor stands for. So I thought he
Ooh.
did. He's very appreciative. He's very happy. Paul Hyun Lee.
Well, you gotta imagine if you're
I'm
a
going to
Star
bring
Wars
up
fan.
one more conspiracy theory. Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
No, you go ahead. My part is not important. I was saying, like, if he's a Star Wars fan, which we know he is,
He is.
and you're going to be in the Star Wars universe, that's got to be pretty exciting for.
He's got to
any
come with
actor.
the official Black Series figure now. It's got to happen.
Totally. That was like Katie Sackhoff bringing her dad on set when with the season finale with Mark Hamill there too. Like her dad was a big Star Wars fan. Like that's awesome to see Star Wars fans being able to live out their childhood dreams in the world, in canon. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you see
I was going to say my
tweet from
conspiracy
the actor?
theory.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So in Rebels, there was a Mandalorian, Sabine Wren. She was with the crew. Could that be her Beskar? Because we got Zeb at the very beginning of the episode, which looked great, by the way. I think his transition to live action was phenomenal. But she's also looking for Ezra Bridger right now, and we know Ahsoka Tano is looking for Ezra Bridger, and Moff Gideon could know where Grand Admiral Thrawn is. So another option could have been Sabine's armor.
Yeah, I heard that one too. Speaking of, the Katie Sackhoff's dad on the set, the actor that played Dr. Pershing, did you see his tweet the one time? It's a picture of him with his son's young, and it said something about, he was happy he made it to
Coruscant
or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, it just made him feel so good." His son being so happy to be on Coruscant.
Well, and Coruscant was
cried
real.
reading that tweet.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was like, I want to go to Coruscant. It's like, maybe someday my kids will grow up and work for Favreau and Filoni, and I'll get the.
What they want to bring up earlier.
You're going to be wheeling you around in a wheelchair. Yes, yeah,
I'll be
Dad,
okay
you're
with
on
that.
Coruscant. You're on Coruscant.
It's not what I thought it would look like.
I'll take it.
Zeb, I guess we can talk about Zeb now. What an amazing cameo. I did not expect to see that. I mean, he only got a couple seconds of screen time. Loved that he interacted with Teva.
But he looked really
phenomenal.
good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was shocked when he came onto the screen. I was like, what?
Yeah, I know. It's the voice. The guy. I said, well, it looks like Zeb. Oh, then the voice. It's the same voice. It's like, wow.
Steve Blum, yeah.
Do that transition from animation to live action, something that's really, really hard to pull off. But they pulled off with Cad Bane. We saw in Book of Fett, which is, he looked amazing. Like, looked so realistic that he looked like the animated character in real life. And then same thing with Zeb here. He looked fantastic.
Amazing.
The hands.
Amazing.
The hands is, in the animation show, his hands are so big, right? And his fingers are so fat, and it just looks so authentic.
I really
dug
New Republic bar.
Dug the bass.
I was just saying.
I know. I was thinking that
I wanted to go there.
All the
music. Landing. They're playing like Space Pool.
Yeah, I thought
they're playing like Space Pool Shuffleboard or whatever. It looked like shuffleboard sticks, right?
This is it here.
Totally.
Yeah. I loved it. You know what it reminded me of? Firefly. The whole outpost, raw, the Western music, I guess you would say. I love the music in this episode, and the cantina. I thought I had a better picture of the cantina, but yeah, that was awesome. I really loved it.
Oh, cool!
I want to be an Adelphi Ranger because that's what he identified himself as.
Adelphi Ranger,
yeah. So when I thought I made funny,
so cool.
Oh, I don't think I put it.
Yeah, I saw that in the post that Star Wars Reporter did with the Adelphi Rangers, the new
Yeah.
Logo for the new Disney Plus show.
I told I like, dear John and Dave, can you make this series happen? Thanks. So
Totally. If
I'm
they're
sure they're
not
working
doing
on it.
Rangers of the New Republic, totally Adelphi Rangers. Or
well, the Outer Rim
Adelphi,
stuff
what was
seems
it?
more interesting, right? All the Outer Rim stuff would be more interesting than big city planets, right? Because they have
Yeah, all those
police
guys that
forces
have
for
to
that.
monitor the like off the radar planets that are doing their own thing.
It's more dangerous, I think. For sure. It'd just be more interesting. But we'll see. Maybe they're still going to do that show, just not like they were before because Cara Dune's no longer around. But
Yeah.
who
Okay,
knows? Maybe
one thing I want to hear both of your opinions on, because we haven't talked in a while. And again, this is a character that has gotten a lot of hate. Pirate King Gorian Shard.
Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
Mossman.
Swamp Thing.
Well, he
That's
does look,
very true.
look like here. Yeah, tell me he doesn't look like this.
Hang on.
Tell me he doesn't look like this.
Oh, 100%. I
Oh,
can
yeah, look
imagine
at
that
that.
was the inspiration. I can imagine that was the inspiration for it.
Although, but Swamp Thing is a DC character, so it's just a little bit interesting they went off brand. But he definitely that or a mixture of Swamp Thing and Mossman. I thought
Right.
Mossman from Master of the Universe, sort of thing.
I kind of like the pirate thing, the way he talks. And I showed this to Todd before we went live.
Yes, please do that, Steve. Yes.
So here's the Pirate King and his Ugnaught companion there,
and compare
helmsman.
it to another Disney property.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Look at the shirt.
100%.
Look at the shirt.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like Smeed for sure. He's got a hat on, everything, right? Like, it's like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
uncanny.
I think that's very cool.
Side by side, uncanny.
And if people get upset about that, then I don't know what to say. But
the only
I don't mind
issue
the
I had,
Pirate
I
King.
will say this. I loved him. I thought, oh, that's super cool. Like another new alien, right? And he looks super, super cool, different, nothing like we've ever seen. The only issue I had with the pirates, love space pirates. I think they almost leaned in too much to like that classic pirate trope, like the Pirates of the Caribbean. Because the pirates we saw in like Rebels and Clone Wars, they were like sophisticated, almost bounty hunter like pirates. They didn't sort of lean on those classic swashbuckling tropes. And my only issue is I think they did that a little too much with Gorian Shard's crew, to the point where that like the futuristicness of Star Wars didn't seem to mesh with like the classic Disney pirate of the Caribbean, right?
I agree with that. It felt misplaced a bit. Again, I did enjoy it. I had no problem. I just wish, again, I'm a big bad guy fan. I thought he's a great looking character. I could have handled seeing more, like a 2-episode arc sort of thing. Like they come in, they wipe the city out, like boom, 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 and then another episode where they come and save them. Just like as I said, Steve, it's a 35-minute episode. It happens very, very fast.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more of them.
Yeah, it's very true. It seemed like, I mean, in the one episode when the flunkies are chasing Din and Grogu, and first thing he says is a vast bounty hunter. I thought that was funny, right? I mean, it was on the nose, and I don't think I think they meant it to be kind of campy in a way. I tell you this, in this last episode with this ship, the Corsair and stuff, my wife, who's not in her, she goes, I have to say, I really love that ship. Like, oh, wow.
It was a cool looking ship, I will say that.
It looked like the ramming Corvette that the rebels use in
the Hammerheads.
The Hammerheads, yes.
Yeah.
Where they ram into episode 8, wasn't it? They had the thing they crashed into the Star Destroyer. The beginning.
Was that 8?
I forget now.
I know. I was wondering if that was in Rogue One.
It could have been that.
Oh, maybe it was
could have
Rogue
been
One.
It was Rogue
yeah,
One.
it was Rogue One when they're pushing it down onto the planet. Yeah.
Yes.
Because when that happened, they became my favorite. I was like, they can do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, right?
See, it just seemed like I said again. I have no problem with that happening. It just seemed it was so easy because they were talking about how they're outnumbered, but again, everything just seemed so easy. Just I was
The
sort of
dogfight sequence looked cool, despite it being too easy. The dogfight was super cool. Love to see that. And then the Mandalorians square their squadron formations. Maybe that was just an easy opportunity to give people the action that they wanted at the expense of what could have been a pretty cool villain.
Yeah.
Well, we
I don't
didn't
know.
see him die. Maybe he jumped in an escape pod and
with
I
this cane and everything, the space cane.
this cane and everything. I had a picture of the. I really love the Mandalorians fighting in the street. I thought it was very cool. I think the only one I have Paz
We
Vizsla
got to
with
talk about Paz.
I remember there is a fight and he's in there and he's shooting, and my
Yes.
wife says to me, she looks at me, she goes, "You want to be him, don't you?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I wish I was him." So,
I
yeah,
think we
let's
have
talk
to give
about
a few minutes of appreciation for Paz Vizsla. Talk about for me, a character that started out as someone I didn't like, someone who kind of their conflict with Din for seemingly no reason annoyed me. Like it was like a classic bully, testosterone. I want to be the man. I want to be the leader of the
Right.
Mandalorians. And then to have that arc where they, no questions asked, they go save his son. And we don't even know it's his son until the very end, right?
right.
But to have them go selflessly and then his speech too, where I was like, oh, he's gonna be a weenie again, and
Yep.
why? We need to ask ourselves why. And then he flips, because we're Mandalorian. That's why. I was like, yes, Paz Vizsla is now one of my favorite Mandalorians.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a good speech because I thought the same thing. Oh, come on, dudes, just give us a break. Stop being a weenie. He was, and but that the whole thing for Mandalorian is I did the same thing. I went, wow, that was a good little twist there. It was a good little moment of like, okay, this is the way, right? So it was good. Good character arc.
And we didn't even see him at that point mow down. Like that was before the badassness that was him in the streets of Navarro.
Like this scene here where they're just walking towards the center. Wow.
And he just opens up. I was a little worried at one point when they were pinned down. I was like, damn it, they gave us a rousing Paz speech. He's going to take one to the chest, and that's going to be it for him. Don't do that to one of my new favorite Mandalorians.
That's funny. And this was the scene here when that was happening. And they're just like blasting everything with that gun. And he's just like, he's strafing like the Terminator.
Yeah.
And that's when she turned to me and said, "You want to be him, don't you?" I'm like, yes, I do. So I would be very, very happy having to keep the helmet on or not. It was, it was awesome. I've always liked kind of from season 1 when I saw him, just how the armor looked, and he was kind of like big and crazy looking. I thought that's going to be really interesting. So
one thing I want to touch on was again, it's something so insignificant, but it's not. It's like the fact that remember when they're on the kind of journey sort of thing, looking for the kid, and they're like, and they're going to eat, and Bo-Katan asks like, so what do you guys do? Like, oh, we get our food, and we go away from everybody, and they sit in isolation and they eat. And it's like, what a sad, lonely life that is, sort of thing. But it was, I've always wondered, well, how do they eat? Well, now we know they don't eat together; they eat by themselves in isolation.
I thought they would do
again, just a small little scene, but gives us so much rich depth into their own rituals.
Yeah, I really like they seem very kind of dramatic faith, right? It's like
totally,
when Din is asking for them to help and he's got the hammer, whoever has the hammer, gets to talk, and I just thought it was interesting with the food though. Like I get it, but in the one episode where um, Bo saves Din and he's knocked out, and he wakes up and she makes that little soup or mixture for him, and he just lifts his helmet up and drinks it like that. And I thought, if they could even do that, because having meals with your friends or your family, it's very social. So you eat and you talk and you do that kind of stuff, right? That's to me, I think that's the other reason we eat dinner around a table, right? It's to get food, but we socialize, right? You congregate. So I find that, and speaking of, you were talking about Jesus on water in churches, that's a big thing too, right? It's like you congregate. It's like,
Yeah,
get a whole bunch of cookies and drinks around a table, and that's how you get people to talk to each other. But anyways, it is kind of, it's interesting, but it is
No,
weird.
that's a huge point.
They have
Like
to
you
do
can
that.
totally analyze their whole, you could call it a religious cult, because you could look at all of their rituals from
Mhm.
episode to episode just to see all of those inner workings that help the group function. Like we opened with them helmeting a child. That was a huge ritual. It was, like a rite of passage.
Right.
Their eating rituals, adding to the isolation. A Mandalorian is a lone warrior. They have been throughout their whole history. They fought each other. Even in the town hall, whoever holds the hammer gets to speak. Very ritualistic. The armor, everything she does is embedded in ritual. Like they are a religious cult.
It's kind of weird because it reminds me, like the Jedi and the Mandalorians were mortal enemies for centuries, right? Like thousands of years before this, they were fighting each other, right? And it's like, it's funny because the Jedi are like warrior monks, right? And if you look at the Mandalorians, what we're learning, to me, it just seems like they're warrior monks as well, except like the Jedis are really monks because they don't, they don't marry, they don't this, they don't that. And I'm not even sure the Mandalorians do that, but
those younglings as his kids.
there's younglings.
They
But
must.
Hey, as long as you keep your helmet on, right?
but I haven't
Socks come off, but not the helmet, right?
I haven't seen anyone, like I heard someone say that's my son, but I never heard anyone say that's my wife or that's my husband. So I mean, it's still early, maybe I'll go research that, but it just seems like it's so funny. They both have their ideologies, and, they fought for, well, obviously because the Jedis were like, we're supposed to be peaceful, and the Mandalorians back then were like, we're conquering every planet we come across and stuff. But I just thought it was really weird. Speaking of religious, when Grief and the citizens are kind of defeated out of the city, and that scene where they're walking, they're kind of walking. I'm like, is this like Moses leading the people? It just kind of felt like that in the music. I could be wrong. Maybe I was reading too much into it, but it kind of felt like that.
I didn't feel
Ten
that way.
Commandments movie.
But yeah.
Yeah, or yes, the Ten Commandments.
It wasn't 40 days
The
and 40
movie, yeah.
nights, or 40 years, right? It was just 4
Yeah.
hours. It didn't seem like a long time. I don't
Didn't
know
seem
how
like a
long
long
that was.
time. And they weren't very far from the city. They're like, we're gonna all camp here, and they probably can see us, and they're gonna come over and kill us. That was funny. So,
Wasn't perfect, but again, I just think like we don't even know what the passage of time was. We have no idea how long it was.
right.
That's one thing we just don't understand how long it took to get to that point. It felt like 4 hours. It didn't feel like a long time, but I'm sure it was
4
over a
minutes.
few.
A nice light walk over to the other side of the.
Yeah,
I
I'm
did
sure
like that Grief got rid of that big puffy coat of his.
it'd be hard to walk in the sands, I think, with that big puffy coat. Plus warm, maybe, perhaps.
So is there anything that you guys didn't like about the series so far, or don't like, or just kind of like meh?
My biggest issues I have is like I said earlier, was the fact that some things just seem so easy. I feel like there hasn't been one, like I found season one. There's a storyline that's everything. Every episode was pointing to. I felt season 2, everything was pointing to one thing. Okay, let's get Grogu to someplace. This one, I just find it's been all over the place. Like, you know what I'm saying? That I don't know what the whole entire storyline is. Now it's starting to shape up now into episode 5. It's about trying to find the new leader for Mandalore. But again, I don't know how that ties in with the Empire snitch that's infiltrated the Republic and how it matches up with Gideon either, right? So I'm sure it'll all come together. But that's been my biggest issue, is the fact that it just seems like a lot of one-ups or filler episodes. Like the whole episode, not this one, but the one prior where they rescued the kid. Great episode, but at the same time, I didn't feel like the story's progressing.
Mhm.
I've been feeling this way a lot with season 2 of the Bad Batch too, where there was a storyline, but again, there's a lot of more one of sort of thing, right? It's just like, oh, okay, again, they're all decent and all good. It's just that I'm missing the story progression, where, like I said, like let's just wrap up this pirate thing up really quick, sort of thing, right? You know, it just seems it's not pointless, but it's just everything's too easy and happening too fast, and it's just a little bit too convenient. Again, still enjoying it. I'm not saying it's bad. That's my one little thing. I'm finding the storylines just not concrete.
Right.
I have a question for you, Todd. So, with that being said, do you think that maybe with this season, Jon Favreau is falling into the Iron Man 2 trap, where he's too focused on setting up all of the other potential storylines for other franchise elements, as opposed to connecting to its own story?
I hear what you're saying. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. Who are they? Who are they bringing in outside the Mandalorian universe right now? I haven't seen them bring anybody in, really, have they?
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's
So they
the
have
big
to
one
set
that
up.
they're trying
Ahsoka's the
to.
next one
but
coming.
Ahsoka's not in season 3.
She was in season
Yeah,
2 or in
she's in
2,
season 2.
but
Yeah.
they
Yes,
have to set up, because
But again,
Ahsoka is next, right, in the next series.
yeah, but the thing is, you know, but at least that's still tied in with Grogu, learning Grogu's name. You know, I can't teach him. You know, like it's still pointed in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Where I don't feel like I hear what you're saying, but I don't like, who is it? The Bo-Katan's always been established. You know what I'm saying? They haven't really established any new characters that's outside. You know, sure, we've seen Zeb, but he didn't do anything. He's just in the little bar, right? Sort of thing. So I don't feel that way right yet. I find this is a series
Okay.
that's doing very little so far of tying in the Star Wars universe. That's, I think.
I think I agree with you there. I think I agree.
Like
Steve, what do you
doc.
think?
I think, well, before we went live, I think we kind of talked about this. I was talking to Todd, where I think that the season seemed to be, into me, I thought there was a lot. It just seemed to slow, because maybe they were setting up the story, like with the Dr. Pershing episode, where the whole cloning thing, right? Because then if you go into the sequels, right, the whole, and somehow Palpatine returned or something, you know what I mean? Because they were cloning, and oh, what's his name? Snoke was cloned and stuff. So it's like this program that they kept going. So you're kind of seeing. I like the fact that they're showing that, just like in the EU, where when the rebels won, the Empire just didn't poof disappear. There was remnants, and like warlords they became and stuff, still fighting, and they were still a problem. And like you see that now, they're infiltrating the New Republic, because the New Republic is dumb, like very, very dumb. And I do think, I never thought about it, the Iron Man 2 thing, but I do think that they might be setting up a little too much. I mean, I was saying too that I thought it was weird that Din Djarin seems to be second player in the series, right? And then someone online's like, well, it says the Mandalorian, but not which Mandalorian they're talking about. It's like, come on.
That's
That's
I
kind of a
don't-
cop out too.
But I don't feel that. I don't feel like he's been a second-rate character in the series. Like it still centers all around him.
I think the story is
I don't think it's the
Bo-Katan.
extent of Book of Boba Fett too. Like to me, Book of Boba Fett it didn't feature enough Boba Fett for my liking.
Yes,
Well, I did
agreed.
enjoy the series overall, but I think that
But
was
it was
my main
very
critique.
little him. And Din Djarin's in it, but I think the story, the focus is on Bo-Katan's growth because she's had more growth, right? She's went from where she was sitting on this couch. Like for the first 2 episodes I saw her, it was like, is this what her part's going to be? She's just going to be sitting on this couch looking all depressed. I'm like, I understand that her people left her and she's alone. She's mad about stuff. But I'm like, are they going to do something with her? Then she's like, you were saying, cocky. Now she's starting to see the faith. Now she's being charged with finding, and uniting all the tribes. So she's had this really big growth. Very quickly. I mean, they only have 8 episodes to do it. We took 5 episodes for her to get here. But where I see Din Djarin doing a few things, like he's in a ship and he's, talking to Grogu. He was, knocked out twice in one episode and saved twice by Bo-Katan. It just kind of seems like his growth is a lot slower. Like he's been go, right? Bounty hunter to dad to, doing this and working with Jedis. And then it's kind of like pulled back a little bit. And that's fine. I just hope that, I was hoping, but I was saying to Todd, maybe it's harder now because Pedro Pascal is so big. He's blasted off like he's like Johnny Depp back in the day, where it's like, did they have a lot of access to him? Are they going to have any access to him going forward? Is he going to be like, this is fun, guys, and thanks for launching me, but I have like 50 other movies to do now. See ya. And then, is Din Djarin going to die, or is he going to be the zealot that keeps the helmet on forever?
Well, I don't see him killing him off because of how the series is done. I think what you also said too, Steve, like where they just retain him to do the voice work. If you don't take his helmet off, like that makes more sense. You come into the studio, you read your lines, boom, you're gone, right? So I can see that happening more because it's a lot. Because again, he's going to get a bigger race every season he's on, right? The show's doing well; they're going to pay him, and that's a lot to pay a guy who you don't see the face. So, in the world of trying to save money and put your money where you need the most, you think you pay him to be the voice actor. It'll be cheaper than having him on set all the time wearing a costume that could be anybody.
Just get a different. Can't anyone talk with a raspy voice into a microphone?
We're all the Mandalorian. We can all be the Mandalorian.
He's definitely got a unique voice.
One interesting thing that I didn't actually consider really at all until our discussion here and thinking of the Empire and what the Empire is doing is we never really got a resolution of what happened with Bo-Katan's palace, right? We saw a huge Imperial fleet roll in and just absolutely demolish her castle. And then they took off, and there's been a huge question mark over that entire fleet. And maybe, now we know Moff Gideon's out there, so that could be Gideon's entourage.
Right, with the TIE interceptors and stuff like that. I know people were saying, "Oh, it's Thrawn," right out there, because they referred to an Imperial warlord, because that's what they were. Because Bo-Katan angered or I guess they raided an Imperial warlord's, shipment or something.
Right. Yeah.
So people I know online were going, "Oh, it's Thrawn," but it's obviously going to be Gideon, because I think they're saving Thrawn if Thrawn's going to be around for Ahsoka.
That makes more sense.
They can't put everyone into one or the other, right? They got to be very careful about that. I
can see Sabine coming into the Ahsoka series too, more than I see her appearing in Mandalorian.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
She's how have we not talked about this yet? Claire and Beck.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Get to that.
Okay, so this was this. Don't be mad. That episode was my least favorite episode of all the Mandalorians to date. I'm sorry, I said it. I thought it looked janky. The wipes. You should watch the episode. Count how many wipes it does. They must have done like 20 wipes in like 3 minutes. It's like way too many wipes. But I thought this again. It's cool bringing him back. Redemption. Get a good care. But I just thought everything looked so janky, unrehearsed. As Steve said before we started, it looked like me with my kids playing with a lightsaber.
The scene here, I thought they could have maybe trained him a little more, or the editing could have been better.
I
But
thought
it seemed like he didn't practice, and they're just like, okay, do this with the lightsabers, like we're shooting at you.
I
My
also thought
interpretation of that was like he's an efficient warrior. Like he moves the least amount he needs to
Right.
to get things done. He knows exactly where the blast is going to be. He knows exactly where to deflect it. He doesn't need to do the whole swing thing. He just needs to go pow, pow, pow. He's an efficient warrior.
I thought even his getaway scene on the speeder bike looked very much like the bad speeder bike chase scene in Book of Fett. I really thought it just like I thought it ranked right there just above that speeder bike chase scene in Book of Fett. It just looked not strong. They spent the money elsewhere. They definitely did. Like when the Mandalorians fell the jump ship down to the city in this last episode.
Cool. Yeah.
That looked fantastic. This speeder's
Right.
chase scene did not look good in Coruscant. I'm sorry. Like when it was hitting, it just looked like he's like, it just looked like it was rushed. Maybe it's Carl Weathers, not experienced. He's a director, not experienced working with all this stuff. I don't know. It just seemed like a really. It just didn't. Just everything about it, like the whole lightsaber stuff looked janky. Just yeah, I don't know what it was. It just felt too forced. Didn't feel natural.
I thought it was cool that they went past that tip of the mountain where they had their little date where
Yes.
Pershing had it. I thought that was a cool little callback.
I had so many pictures. Yeah, and this scene where every time I see the clones, they are relentless monsters, aren't they?
Yes.
I mean, they killing Jedis that were ready for them. Even like I understand when Order 66 came, it was a big surprise, but man, they killed 3 or 4 of them right there. They just like shoot. We're gonna get you eventually. They're just.
I like that. The best thing about that is like I love the fact that it's clones, but they're not CG clones. They're real. Suits,
I was gonna say that looked better than episode 2 because it looked it was people. The armor was fantastic.
Yeah, it just again what they did in episode 2 and episode 3 was fantastic, but just look at that. Looks 100% better. And you're right. Again, there's elements of this I like, but this was my favorite show. Seeing the clones was great. Yes, the mowing down Jedi was awesome. It looked really that looked decent. But again, even the Jedis just didn't look like they looked like they had a boot camp. They didn't have a full training session sort of thing to home.
They weren't. Yeah. I thought it went a little fast there for them. Like, when they had killed a couple of the Jedi on the way in, and the last 2 were kind of like. It just seemed weird, their movement. They were just kind of walking and like, okay, like they didn't seem urgent. There's these crazy Terminators behind me shooting at me, and then they end up killing them all, and Grogu gets into the elevator. And I just thought, what I was disappointed in? I thought for sure that they had used maybe Anakin again, and that he would be behind the stormtroopers coming in, because these are the 501st, right? They're the ones that went into the temple with Anakin, their Vader's fist or whatever they're called. So that he would be there, but I guess they only paid for him to be there for
he can only have a certain amount of screen time. He was in Kenobi, and apparently they have him for Ahsoka too. So if they're trying to save money.
Oh, okay.
And again, I have no problem with the story structure. Is more of the execution of the filming is my issue I have with that section. It not has a story related story. I liked it very much how the story went. Mine's just pulling off the execution, make it look good. Again, I
Yeah.
watched John Wick. I watched John Wick Chapter 4 last night, and it made that scene look really, really, really
Well, I
bad.
mean, yeah, I bet. You know
I
what?
don't know if that's a
I like the
comparison.
story. I'm really excited to see what Caloran Beck did with Grogu, and I thought it was interesting when he met up with the oh, Padme's planet there. What's it called?
Naboo?
Naboo. Showed up to the Naboo pilots or
Yeah.
soldiers or whatever, and they gave him a ship to leave, and they fought against because they were sympathetic to the Jedis. Obviously, I thought that was really cool. But are we going to see
I
the
mean,
last 3 episodes what happened to Grogu?
Well, they hinted at it somehow.
they could set up for another Gungan cameo with Killeran Beck. Of course, Ahmed Best in a Naboo
I
ship,
don't know if he would want to
potentially
do
going
that.
to Naboo. I don't know.
Would he want to do
The
Jar
fact
Jar?
that he got in a Naboo transport ship.
He can go anywhere. Why would he go to Naboo?
So they can make him go Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Once you go Jar Jar, you can't go back, can you? Like,
I don't know.
Apparently he can.
like again, it was kind of cool learning that it was Jar Jar. That was kind of cool. I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't know how. But I wasn't exactly thrilled with his performance. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sure he tried really hard, but as all the talent goes in the Star Wars series, I just thought his facial expressions weren't as believable.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
For those of you watching, send your hate emails to contact@starwarsreporter.com. Attention, Trooper Todd. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just speaking honestly, right? Like, his facial reactions just to me weren't. Like look at me. I'm acting scared. Not, you know what I'm saying? It didn't look like
No.
Yeah, that's all. I think again, I hate bashing the guy. I think he did fine. It's just that it just wasn't the strongest acting performances I've seen in the Star Wars universe. That's all. I know. Sorry. It's just we brought it up. That's how I felt. Sorry.
No,
He's a great guy, though. He's a great guy.
Everyone's entitled to their views, right? We had contrasting views with Kenobi too. Even Andor, we had lots of different views on Andor. It's good. We can't all.
So you put them in the comments. I can't see it. On a small laptop.
Send hate mail for Trooper Todd to contact@starwarsreporter.com. There's a banner below.
Oh, I see it now. I see it now.
Oh, that's gold.
Well,
all right. Sorry.
That's gold. We should have put that up for Kenobi with Wookiee Steve. With all the hate.
Yes, I remember those names.
But that's good though. We need to have different views though. Like we need to have different views. We had our critiques of Kenobi. We had our critiques of Book of Boba Fett. We had our critiques of Andor. It's only right that we also have our critiques of Mandalorian, right?
And it's not what we're hating it. We're not hating it. We're not passing on hate out. It's just, some things work really well. It goes in any movie project you're doing. Some things work really well. Some things don't, right? It's just what it is. And these are the things that I didn't, stood out to me as being more distracting.
Remember the days when you could say, I just didn't like that scene without anyone calling you a hater, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you said,
cancel Wookiee
I didn't
Steve.
like Ahmed Best in this scene, and I think we should murder him. There's a difference.
Totally. I think this is good criticism. What Star Wars fans have done in the past to personally attack the actor, that's not okay. Like even Jake Lloyd's portrayal of young Anakin Skywalker, like that's not okay. But I mean, we're all allowed to critique performance, right?
Absolutely.
I was talking to someone and they were saying Star Wars fans are the worst of all fans. I'm like, you know what? There was those years I was working on a site with that was mostly focused on Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the Tolkien stuff. And it was like, wow, I thought it was really bad. And he disagreed. I'm like,
Tolkien fans are worse.
You could say the same about sports fans. Like any kind of fandom that goes too far, you're going to get those people that are like, I'm going to beat up Tom Brady. He's a jerk. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
like,
exactly.
who cares? You know, like
Yeah.
even Patriots fans are like, oh, he sucks. He should die, and his family should die too because he lost a game. It's
Whoa.
like everyone needs to calm down, right? It's like it's the same thing when like
Everyone has a
Star,
bad day at work.
yeah, Star Wars is dead, and this is terrible, and I don't like that actor, and that actor should die. It's like, like it's all the same thing. I think it gets out of hand where it's like all I said is I didn't like that one scene, and you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, no,
it should have been brighter or something, or like some people criticize some of the stuff where it's
I
like
critique
they
that a
have this
lot,
green
actually.
filter over stuff. I understand that. It's like it even hurts my eyes sometimes, some of the green filters that they're using in a lot of these Disney movies and stuff. It's like, why is everything so green?
it's
Actually,
setting a mood.
some of my biggest critiques of Bad Batch, Mandalorian, and Andor have just been like, it's too dark. I just can't see what's going on.
Well,
Just brighten it up a
very.
little bit.
That's why I can't watch like Bad Batch upstairs on my TV because there's a lot of windows. So when everything's so when there's so much light coming in the windows, your eyes will adjust for the light. So therefore your pupils get smaller. So therefore your TV screen you're looking at looks darker. So it's Bad Batch has a lot of dark scenes, a lot of dark scenes. So yeah, and
Mhm.
I was watching Mandalorian, not this episode, the one where they were under under Mandalore, right?
Going to the
And
living waters, yeah.
it was so
Right.
I couldn't see anything. It's like, okay, again, I was watching in the middle of the day. At nighttime, it's fine, but you just have to make sure you have a nice dark area, and then usually everything will be fine, right? So in the darker your environment, that your like movie theaters, what do they turn off all the lights so that screen's the brightest thing you see. Because if somebody, I was at John Wick, like I said last night, somebody pulled their phone. Some woman like I'm bored, she says, and she's like on her phone, like texting, and it's like it's so bright, it's like shining, and like come on, like and one person just kept checking his phone every like 20 minutes, like or every 15 minutes, like for the time. Well, like, if you don't want to be here, go away. You know what I'm saying? Like
I
again,
understand doctors have to bring their phone when they go see a movie, but it's like,
but
bro,
a phone screen when they just go like they just turn on like this, it's so bright compared to the screen,
yeah,
like so bright compared to the
exactly.
screen. Like it was like whoa, like to the point where it was so distracting. I missed a big pivotal part of the movie because of it too. Because I looked over like, come on, like, oh, what happened? So it's like I was all mad. But if you haven't seen John Wick Chapter 4, you should go see it. If you haven't seen 1, 2, and 3, what's wrong with you? Go see it. Sorry.
I just have to say this. It was years ago before the pandemic. I was at the theater with some friends, and we were kind of down in the middle and way up at the top. Someone was throwing ice down just randomly at people. You could hear it hitting, and I remember something hit close to me, and then something hit the back of my seat, and I was like, "All right, that's it. I'm going back up." And I turn around and stand up. There's this guy behind me standing up already, who was the size of a house, and he was like shaved head with the big beard, tattoo. He was like massive, and I'm like, that guy's got it. I sat back
He's got it. He's
and
got it.
he went back up, and I could hear him talking. And then he comes, I could feel because he was sitting down behind me. And then these like 2 10-year-old kids go running out of the theater. I was like, oh, I'm glad he did that because I didn't want to have to yell at 2 10-year-old boys. But it's like, are you not here with your parents? And why are you in this? I forget what movie it was. And I'm like, why are you in this movie, man? But that was the funniest thing. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be great if we could just not go to the movies and stay home all the time? And then the
Wow.
pandemic happened. And I'm like, nope, I get it.
And I've been my movie experience since the pandemic happened has been so different. Like I had this one incident with the phones, and me and my daughter last week went seeing the new Scream film, and we had four teens, like probably 14 to 16 age. And they were tweaking. They were high. They were so rude. They were talking loudly, jumping up and down the seats, and the people in front of them, behind them, sorry, they're in front of them. They turned around and they said, "Well, you just shut the f up." And then they got the yelling back and forth, like holy crap! And then they ended up leaving halfway through the movie because I guess they were just, yeah, it was, and they threw their popcorn everywhere and at people. It's like, and they sat right next to us too. It was like it was awesome. So
Yeah. People can change their attitude. Who was it that said it's nothing better than a good punch to the face to change someone's bad attitude? Something like that. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yes, but
I
so
guess you
one thing.
can't do that to 14-year-olds.
Exactly. Well, the nice thing about these streaming services with all these TV series, you get to see exclusive content at home, right? So you don't have to worry about those people on the phones or people
Or wear
tweaking out.
pants.
Or wear pants.
You're onto something, Steve.
Get that out of your head. I'm not wearing pants now. Hang on, I'll stand up.
No, it's okay.
I
And
need
we're
one of
banned.
those like temporary or technical difficulties. I need one of those things to pop up when I say that.
And if you're at home too, if your Wookiee gets itchy, you can take care of it without having people staring at you thinking you're a freak.
How did you know I called it that?
I don't know. I was just guessing.
Better the Wookiee than the Ewok, right?
And and it's a Wookiee from the 70s. An Ewok. I'd be happy if it was an Ewok. Yub nub.
Yep.
No.
We just had an all-time. This is the stuff you want to share on YouTube, there, Steve.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
little
clip
caption.
this. Then we're talking about our Wookiees and our Ewoks.
This is gonna make the Star Wars Reporter greatest hits episode.
It'll be the first episode. So, God, we didn't get to. We'll have to catch up on the Bad Batch because it was a crazy 2-episode finales. But we'll have to get that. So, Adam, favorite part of the series so far, The Mandalorian?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know if I can narrow it down.
Thing. You know what I mean? Like,
I love them bringing back Kelleran back. I will say, bringing back Ahmed Best. I think that was really good. To have him be the one to save Grogu after all that fans have done towards him. I thought that was great. Bo-Katan is just an absolute shining star this season. Amazing. The myth, bringing the myth and the legend of the Mandalorian in, I think is a really cool route to take. And I'm all for more lore, especially when it comes to Mandalore. So bringing the Mythosaur back. There's just so many great things. I can't narrow it down. I'm a huge fan. Gets two big old thumbs up for me.
Very nice.
So
what about you, Todd?
My favorite part, I think I really liked when she saw the Mythosaur. I don't know why that really spoke to me. Maybe it's just because it's just that moment of just dramatic change in this one character, and I just thought it was so neat. Again, it happened way too quickly, but I think one thing that stood out to me so far, which I really liked, was that moment there, that moment in time where she came out and just was like in awe of what she just saw and experienced, sort of thing, the changing. And to me, the biggest surprise so far was that tangent episode where you have these two characters, former Empire, trying to assimilate into this new Republic world. That was like the biggest surprise moment, and how much I really first I'm going, why are we talking about these characters? And it wasn't too long when I was hooked. And how it ended with like her scrambling his brain, I was like,
yeah.
What I just like, again, it just had so much tribute to Palpatine and how he manipulated everything. I just was like, it was like, good job. Something I started complaining about quickly turned me and like, wow, one of my favorite episodes. So I couldn't even tell you what happened with the Mandalorian in that episode because I was so transfixed on that story. Right. I thought it was so strong. Like, I have no idea what else happened in that episode. I know there was a Mandalorian in the beginning and the ending, but I have no idea what happened before or after that little tangent storyline. So that's my biggest surprise.
Wasn't that the Mythosaur episode too?
It might have been
that was a different one, because didn't they ended on the Mythosaur?
Oh no, but it still could be. No, it might have been it, because I think they went to Mandalore, and then they had a little tangent. Right. They came back where he went and bathed in it, I think.
Right.
I think you may be right.
Yeah. I agree, Todd. Like, to go all dark in the waters, and then you just see the side profile. I was like, it is so horrifyingly powerful. Like my jaw was on the ground.
It was convenient that she read the plaque before she went in the water, and then boom, there it is. It was just so cool. Like at first, when you see the big tusk, then you see the eye, and then the thing is, the eye looked at her, right? It's like, whoa, and then just her coming out, and again, it's that react. What really set the tone is that reaction. She sat there, she had him, Dijar, and then just looking into that water.
Mm,
Again, a mask on, but the mask told so much.
that's true.
Again, body. Again, she wasn't even moving. It's just. But you can just see it again. It's also the camera push in. It's everything that happens technically to help sell that emotion. And I thought that was brilliantly done. So those are my highlights. And of course, TIE fighters. Anytime there's TIE fighters being blown up, I'm all in.
That TIE fighter sound is awesome.
Okay, Wookiee Steve, lay it on us.
Yeah.
Like, biggest thing for me is I think it's something that you had said is the Mandalorian lore, getting more into it. We're seeing more of it now because before Din was kind of a loner, right? So we got little small bits and pieces about this and that. But now, as he's being exposed to other Mandalorians, like Bo's group and everything, I'm kind of liking kind of their whole faith and how they do things. And it's kind of like, I don't know, well, it's almost like a 300, what are they called? The Spartans.
Spartans,
kind of like any kind of warrior race or something. I just kind of like it. The story again. Yeah. And it's really interesting because, now that I've researched more on the whole Mandalorian thing, it's like their armor has been developed over the centuries and it's been adapted to fight against Jedi. That's why it was, right? The Jedis have like force push and pull. They have those ropes that grab you and pull you. The jetpacks, because they can't jump high like the Jedi, so they have that. Like, it's really interesting. Everything was adapted to fight Jedi over the centuries, and now it's like it's just a fight and kill everything and anybody. But so I'm really enjoying that. I like the story, maybe the slow setup for the other series that are coming out. I understand that. I like the eerie, weird feeling from that Dr. Pershing episode with Alia Kane and stuff. Like, even at the end where she's just frying his brain, everything just seems so eerie with her. Even in this episode where she overhears Teva in the colonel's office, as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, like, it made me jump. I was like, oh God, because she's the spy, and she's like, she's devious and evil. Then she's acting all innocent and like, oh, I don't know, and blah blah blah.
I was liberated.
So weird. Yeah, it's so weird. It's almost like that Quentin Tarantino, that Nazi guy in that one movie, Inglourious Bastards, like whole methodical way of talking, and that whole. I mean, obviously the Empire, probably based on, that whole Nazi stuff and stuff, but it's just eerie feeling for me. And then how stupid the Republic is, the new Republic, but letting this happen. But yeah, overall, I'm just really digging the lore, the action, obviously all that kind of stuff's cool. But I just, now that I'll like it more that now the Mandalorians can live above ground in the sun, and I'll like what you were saying, Adam, I might be able to see better now. It's not all dark like that scene where he's talking to the rest of them. I'm like, how am I going to take a screenshot of this? It's so damn dark. It's like I gotta get into Photoshop just to lighten it up so people can see.
Brighten it.
I know, it's so crazy. So I didn't even choose to put it in the million pictures I have here because I'm like, no one's going to see anything. I did fix this one. When Din gets redeemed, he's like, yeah, I bathed. It's all good now. I had to lighten this up like nothing else.
I bathed. It's all good.
So, yeah. So I'm enjoying it.
It was great to talk with you guys again. It's been such a long time, so
we're gonna have to do a follow-up episode on Bad Batch. We didn't even get to it. There's too much to talk about. We're gonna have to do a follow-up on season 2 of Bad Batch.
Definitely, especially the last couple of episodes, especially the last episode.
Yes, I got to write my reviews here for you too.
Yes, I look forward to that. get that posted, and yeah, it's going to be a lot to say. But in the meantime, I think that's it for us. We'll close out by saying, may the force be with you, and we will see you next time. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Nice.
We did pretty good.
Do 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 do.